and welcome. You're tuning in to Unbreakable Hope with me, your host, Jessica Rose. This podcast is all about seeking the light. In each episode, we chat with someone who has either overcome the darkness or who is actively spreading light within their own community. So let's jump into today's episode. Today is a very special episode. This is the first episode that I recorded since my husband's passing, and this episode was actually already scheduled and planned before that time. What makes it even more special and timely for me, and I'm grateful that I already had a pre-existing relationship with David, is we are talking about the dash. The dash is between the years you were born and the years you passed. Now, David was already in the process of helping me with a memorial for my husband, though the plan was for him to still be alive. So we're talking today about what is the dash and how we can improve our memorials and remember the legacies of our loved ones that are passed. So stick with me in this episode because I think you're going to want to find out how you can have your loved one's dash improved the way David does them. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited for our conversation today. I think you do a lot of great work that's really meaningful. So I appreciate you being willing to come on the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Jessica Rose. As we're plowing away, working hard, it's really nice to be able to talk about and share our story a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool that we met, years ago through LinkedIn. And it's always fun staying in contact with people in different parts of your lives, crossing paths. So I'm glad that I reached out, over a month ago or so, and that we've been able to have this time together to talk more. So I want to pass it over to you. That way you can introduce yourself to our audience and we'll just kind of jump in our chat.
Hi, my name is David Gastelum. I'm founder of a tech startup called Dash. And the reason why it's called Dash is because of the symbol on a memorial. Whenever someone passes away, there's a memorial and you have the date of birth, the date of death, and there's the little dash in between the dates. And that dash is really your whole life. So we call our startup Dash because that's what we do. We help tell someone's story, help them be remembered in a more beautiful way. We focus on the dash, all the memories in between the dates. So, and veteran firefighter, Los Angeles City firefighter for 23 years, born and raised in Southern California, still here. Virtual background, the ocean, but do live here in the ocean, love in the beach, Redondo Beach, Dash headquarters. I have two kids, two daughters, an early empty nester. One daughter graduated college already. She's married. My other daughter's in college right now. She's going to go into law enforcement. So I'm super proud dad. And I'm fully focused on the startup. And it's been an awesome, interesting journey. So just enjoying the building what we're doing with Dash, bootstrapping startup. And we're in a pilot with a funeral home in LA. And we're doing some memorials, meaningful memorials with some first responder memorials here in Los Angeles. And it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of it, just trying to help protect people from being forgotten. So yeah, it's great. So thanks for letting me kind of tell part of the story.
I love that. And I think it's so meaningful. My husband would always say, you're only guaranteed two things, to be born and to die. And really recognizing that like you said, I love it. I love the idea when I first met you years ago when we were talking about this, is that it's that dash represents the whole life, and you don't get that from someone's headstone or the memorial. So it's a really cool way to be able to continue someone's memory and legacy. And how did you get started? What was your first dash that you made?
Like I said, I used to be a firefighter in LA. And we, as firefighters, are trained as EMT and paramedics. So aside from going to fires and car accidents and those really exciting things that you may see on TV, we also go on medical calls, people that have strokes, heart attacks, and oftentimes people that die of natural causes in old age. So when we would go on those calls where people would die of old age or in hospice, we would respond to their homes and we would look on the walls. I would see the pictures on their walls of this person's life, and I would notice their whole life timeline. And I realized those pictures, those photos, after they die, end up in a box forever to be forgotten, and that person's memory and legacy goes on to be forgotten. And that stayed with me. And then a friend of mine got killed at work, and so he wouldn't be forgotten. I had this idea to make a slideshow and make it accessible on an engraved metal QR code. And this was back in 2017 when nobody knew what a QR code was. I had kind of sort of been aware of the super barcode that allowed people to learn more about something more than just a price tag. I just knew it was gave you superpowers, you know, and once you scanned it, there was so much more that it could do. And so I thought at his funeral back in 2017 when he passed away, I had this idea that we could be able to remember an entire life and put all those photos that people, end up losing or forgetting to tell that whole life story onto a metal engraved QR code. And that's what we did for his memorial at the firehouse. We made that metal engraved QR code and slideshow, and we put it onto his memorial, this physical memorial at the fire station, so that visitors and anyone that would come by can scan it and see his life so that he would not be forgotten. And it's kind of the nuts and bolts of the story. So, yeah. I felt like I had kind of the power to do something about people being forgotten, because all those years I was called to rescue people, but eventually we all pass away. So now I feel like we can rescue their memories so they're not forgotten.
And I think that's so cool because I'm definitely that person when I come across a statue, I'm like, why is the statue here? Right. So I want to Google it. I want to find out about it. I'm like, what is the significance? What is the importance of this? So having that access to it right then and there and having the QR code. And that's right. As you said that, I was like, oh yeah, most people didn't even really know about QR codes or had little experience in them until after the pandemic, which come to think of it, wasn't it like a whole thing you had to initially, I think on the iPhone or the Android, you had to download an app specifically just to read QR codes or something like when they first came out. And now it's so much more accessible. My parents still struggle with it, but I'm working on them. I'm working on them.
Yeah, it's timing. There was a time that people didn't have QR code readers on their phone. In 2019, Apple integrated into all of their new iPhones that it's just a feature that's part of their camera. You don't have to download a new app. And it's just interesting after 2019 when they first started this that the lockdowns happened, all of the COVID protocols and the quarantine, and then the contactless ways to do the memories and QR codes started springing up everywhere. But it was just interesting the timing of COVID that really helped expose people to QR codes and your ability for basically your device to scan a physical object to get more information, to get access to the internet. And you know, QR codes in memorializing a life have been around for a while. The idea initially came out, I think the first one was in Japan in 2010, 2011. And it's funny because my sister's husband, they had a startup around that time called Scanzi. And it did the same thing with GPS and objects, where you could put digital content onto something or access it with objects. But it's timing. It's all about timing. And we're now in a time where people know about QR codes, oh yeah, just turn your phone on, scan that thing, and you'll see something. So now um, we're in a good time where, we're able to not have to worry about training the public or teaching people about certain basic things. And we just insert ourselves right into the flow of how people are getting information now, and makes it a lot easier for us. And for easier adoption, and people can put two and two together faster now. Say, oh yeah, QR code for life. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And so that helps us a lot. So it's nice. Timing, technology.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Being able to people recognizing it, especially because I know here it's like every menu everywhere had their own QR code, and we still have a lot of restaurants like that. Especially like when you go, it's like one QR code every four seats or something. You gotta like lean over somebody and scan the QR code, but people are now they see it and they're familiar with what it does and what it's capable of. For your company, what all do you do? So when someone reaches out to you, what does that process look like?
So right now it's very manual. We're in a very manual process. Um, we're in a beta, so we're building the app, we're building the platform, and we did it by doing a lot of manual work because we couldn't raise any capital. Um, I wasn't able to raise capital. So right now we're in a beta with a funeral home in LA, and we're manually creating slideshows and we're hosting it on a website, a landing page website. But and when we do that, we do a lot of work where we create their funeral program. So we'll manually create a funeral program for the person, the family. We design it on, we graphic design and mobile apps right now. And then we'll set up a QR code and we go through that manual process so that something like this, they can scan the QR code, for example, and they'll be able to see this person's entire life. Um, and the way we do that, just to get proof of concept, is we are having the family text us all the photos. And then we manually put that slideshow together. And then we manually design the program. And then we literally pick up a phone, call a print shop, and email them the PDF file of the print, the design that we made, and upload and host the slideshow that we created. And we did that, and literally showing you our little journey. We did that to prove that or test whether or not people would pay for this, whether or not people test their interest and gauge, measure the interest level. And then we're in this process. We tried out certain new technologies now, like the AI animations of photos. You get an old photo, black and white photo, and you can animate them with AI. And we tried those features out. That would be a feature, and we tried those out in all of the families that we've tried that out. We tried it out with about 10 or about a dozen families where we would animate old photos of their loved ones just to see the interest. And I mean, didn't even ask. We just tried. Let's put this in. And every single one of them loves it. They're really really impressed with the new technology. So the mission stays the same, and it's funny while we're doing the beta testing and the just the research to see like, hey, what's the best business model to get us traction? Hey, what's the best customer experience? What's the real core feature that these early customers that are paying for our services, what are things that they're interested in? And at the core of it, they just want someone's life remembered in a really nice, beautiful way. And now, as we're doing this in this process, this kind of manual process, and as new mobile apps come out, new technologies start to come out, we are realizing we could sit back and say, oh man, this is kind of discouraging. We got some other mobile apps coming out that are just doing some amazing things with AI. But in that journey, we're realizing, you know what, that's not a reason to be discouraged. That's actually an awesome tool that we can use to incorporate into what we're building, um, the automated mobile app, so that we can, now offer that really cool technology as a feature that we can upsell, because I mean, obviously that stuff takes money and takes data, it takes processing, but it's just encouraging to know that we're on a mission that is timeless. that just no matter what technology comes up, it doesn't make us obsolete. It just makes us more powerful. And it's kind of the part of that journey that I kind of want to just tap into. So to answer the question, what we're doing now is the manual process. And in parallel, we're developing and building the mobile app. We're building web app first, just a super duper website on your mobile phone. That's what a web app is. That makes it really easy and really beautiful to remember a loved one. It takes away all of our manual work that we had to do, takes away all of our manual graphic design work, takes away all of the slideshow creation that we would do. It takes away us having to communicate with the print shops to make something like this. And it makes it so that the user, the customer, can do it all themselves and very easily. So it's a pleasurable user experience. It's a great website that's super easy for anybody that doesn't know anything about creating slideshows or graphic design because it's all based on templates and graphic designs are already made for them. The QR code gets instantly automatically placed onto the graphic design. And that leads automatically to a publicly facing profile page that anyone can view a slideshow. And it helps guide them through just one click little buttons. One button on a screen, that's all you got to worry about. And it takes you to the next little screen and then the next little screen. Next thing you know, they're just paying for their order and through a Stripe payment, which is just the automatic way and that websites use now and mobile apps use to distribute payments. When a customer pays, they make their purchase instantly. Dash gets a percentage of that. The print shop gets their cost, their cut. The funeral home, in this case now, they get their uh, percentage. Um, and everything's all done automatically, and that's what we're literally building now. And so it's exciting to be able to get that finished so we can scale. And that's the exciting thing right there. Is going to be scaling. We've established need. We established the market. We identified those two things, and we've proven, like and defined what it is that we have to build. And that was a journey. That was a journey. That took several years of me part time testing different things, knocking on funeral home doors in LA, and trying out different approaches to the business or theses, trying out different business models, going from direct to consumer or strictly B2B. And then we realized to finding out what gets the traction. We found out what works. We found out the track, we found we're getting traction now in the opportunity that we discovered where we're getting traction at the moment is the B to B to C model, where before we would offer the funeral home printing services, and we didn't really get that traction that way. What we discovered is funeral homes already have their own print shops they use. They already have their own manufacturers of monuments or memorials or plaques or whatever, because I do have a contact that does those. And I thought, gosh, okay, well, we'll just provide all of that. We'll just make everything for them. We'll be the go-to. And it doesn't, I realized that didn't really work. So what I did realize it works, that they will pay for, is the a way to make it super easy for us to come in and communicate better with their existing manufacturers, print shops, and by providing the QR code and the slideshow already made. Now, we realize is that enables the funeral home to provide an upsell with an existing uh, path that they already have established. So they're not really making a big jump. They're not going with the whole brand new vendor pipeline. They're not getting new print shops or anything like that. They're just doing one little tiny difference. And that we realize like that's the way to go. And it makes it easy for us because we don't want to be in charge of inventory. We're a software company. I'm like, I would hate to be packaging up, and I was doing it for a little while. I was manually working with vendors and packaging things up, and for some of these early customers, and we were getting some customer. We have $70,000 in total revenue since I started this kind of concept, and I'm like, that's for the birds. I mean, I mean, no offense, but it that was really great because that discovery helped me do like, gosh, I just want to be a software company. I don't want to handle the actual, you know, product manufacturing, the physical stuff. We literally just are software. We're just connecting funeral homes with their print shops and their existing vendor partnerships, and we're enabling the funeral home to have upsells. And the most important thing is we're allowing the families to have a more beautiful way to remember their loved one, and it's a win-win for everyone because the manufacturers for the monuments, the print shop vendors, all of them, instead of them having to do the back and forth with the customers, they receive a ready-made PDF. All the artwork is set up, everything's ready to go. They just receive it and they manufacture it. They do what they do best. And they love that about what we bring to the table. So we're benefiting the funeral home to give them upsells. We're benefiting their print shop vendors, engravers, monument makers, because we make it easier for them. They don't have to worry about design. It's already done. They just produce. And we're helping families memorialize their loved ones in an awesome, cool way.
And I think that's what's really cool too, is you're talking about kind of how you've grown and been able to accomplish so much. I think of like your capacity, right? Is sure you could still do all these things, but if you're able to focus on the software side of things, connecting all these existing resources, then you'll be able to expand that piece. And I just think of like I so I did funerals professionally when I was on active duty, and in a veteran status, I've done more than I could even remember. And I've sat through a lot of funerals and I've seen a lot of the papers and the pamphlets and stuff. And I just think about how a lot of them, it's like, okay, there's maybe a picture or two or a small collage and it has a little bit of their obituary on it. But like having that QR code, even just added to the pamphlet, like that alone enhances that to where it's like, oh, I would actually be more interested in keeping this or maintaining this to be, oh, I can go back and look at this and see everything and not just a few paragraphs I could fit on the page for an obituary. I know that was one thing when they asked me if I had written an obituary for my husband, I thought, oh my God, how am I supposed to sum up his whole life? Like, I had 11 years with him. I don't even think I can sum up that in enough to fit on one page. Like, okay. So, of course, the funeral director was like, oh, you know what? I'll ask some basic details. I'll draft one out and you can kind of edit it. And as he's asking me all these questions, I was like, oh yeah, like that's like it. That's all that goes on the piece of paper. So being able to have something more to offer, to tell more of the story, not just like, I don't know, I feel like most obituaries, they tell like the facts. That's where they lean in. Maybe there's a couple personal details, but really being able to tell the story of the person. And I was excited to reach back out to you too, as my husband got the Veterans Rowing Program started here in Oklahoma, and he had volunteered countless hours fixing boats. So River Sports actually dedicated a boat bay in his name. I think like the third year we thought he was going to die. I kind of lose count over the 6 years of caring for him. But at one point, we really didn't think he was going to make it medically. And I remember we were actually in the ER until like 1 a.m. And I think the ceremony for the boat bay dedication was at like 9 or 10 a.m. or something. So I literally didn't know if we were going to make it. But anyway, they have this plaque that just says, like the Andrew Johnson boat bay. And it was a bit of a rush process. No offense to anybody, but we really were like, oh, shoot, he's going downhill fast. What do we do? But we still haven't done something more with it. And that's been a few years. And that's why I was thinking, like, how cool that'd be. Like, we have the plaque, but being able to add a QR code, because that's the community boathouse. People are going to come through there and they're going to wonder, who was this Andrew Johnson and what did he do? And why is this boat bay named after him? Right. And all of us that were there during that time and affected by him, we know. But when I look at our rowing program, I think, what's sustainability look like? And it's not the next 5 years. It's, I want this program to last 50 years after I'm gone. So I also love that that's kind of something that you did within your own business too, right? Is you're like, you know what, I could do all this, but what is going to make the bigger impact, and where can I focus and hone in my efforts to make this something that's going to impact lives, that will impact generations, that maybe this will come to something that's, I want to say, standard, almost like more people reaching out and wanting this, wanting that QR code instead of just the dash, and wanting to be able to include that on their paperwork, and having things more meaningful and less, I guess, less like cookie cutter standard as they are now. If that's that's how I view it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, hopefully, the idea is that this would just be a standard that everybody uses the dash because the QR code is takes place of the little dash symbol.
Mhm.
And like with your husband, we'll make his dash. And we can design the entire plaque and with the QR code in there, the dash and the QR code. We call the QR code the dash because it goes in between the dates, like in here, right? For all the viewers, those listening in. That dash is replaced literally by a QR code, and that QR code now is called the dash. So you scan the dash. So two things we can do with your husband's plaque or sign at the boathouse. We can create, put the whole slideshow together, anything that you want together as personal profile page, of his life so that he could be remembered beautifully. And we'll create that QR code and then we can send it to someone that's maybe making the sign, that's part of the process of designing it. Or we can design the entire sign ourselves and send that all ready to go to whoever is the physical sign manufacturer. And are part of us. If you guys already have somebody that's going to make the sign, great. If not, we'll find whoever that is, and then we just bring that new manufacturer on board. That's how we've done it. Literally, we're in several states. We have manufacturers that are waiting on our waiting list that we've already done work with, because through word of mouth, like in your situation, you want to honor your husband, you're out in Oklahoma, and instead of us having to use a vendor in Los Angeles that would make your sign, we'll just find a vendor in Oklahoma that can make the sign. And through that process of actually helping people in different states, we've developed a small handful of network of providers, and that's where we realize, like, we got something here where we can scale this throughout the country, where we got someone like Jessica Rose wanting to memorialize her husband, make a sign in Oklahoma. Sure, no problem. We'll put the whole slideshow together, everything together, the profile and the QR code, the whole design of the sign, and we'll just send that, email that off to whoever the sign maker is in Oklahoma, and they'll boom make it. No, very minimal delivery. Cut down on cost to make it reasonable for the family, so it's not an arm and a leg on shipping, and just another way to help save money for the family. And what that's kind of like how we've stumbled upon this discovery about developing our network of sign manufacturers, memorial makers, print shops. That was just kind of through helping people like you and your husband. It was interesting that kind of help shape kind of how we do business, and kind of the value proposition of the whole mobile app. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to make your husband's dash, and it's going to be an honor to do that. Um, it'll be beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful sign,
Yeah. I'm
and hopefully, yeah, the end goal is that this would just catch on, that everyone will want to use dash to remember their dash, make their loved one's dash, and hopefully we're hoping that it'll make people kind of look back and like, hey, how do I want to be remembered?
Mhm.
How do I want my dash to be remembered? And in by reflecting and having that kind of question and a conversation within, maybe it'll help us to kind of live our best dash every day. Like, how can I be a little bit better today? So that when I'm on my deathbed and when I die, and the fire department's called to my house and looking at all the pictures on the wall and wondering about this person and where all these memories go, how am I going to be remembered? What will be my dash? What's going to be in my dash? And hopefully, people will be inspired to maybe uh, love their loved ones a little bit better, listen a little longer, be a little more, nicer, kinder, more patient with their children. Realize that this ride, this life is going to end. This dash will have an end, and how are we going to feel it?
Yeah, I think that's huge. Is that one thing that my husband always hated when people would refer to his cancer as a terminal illness, and he would laugh and he'd say, "Life is a terminal illness." And so many people don't get that opportunity to truly live as they're dying. Like we wait until someone else tells us that we're dying, right? And that's when we're like, "Oh, shoot," rather than like you said, looking and saying, how do I want to be remembered? Or, when you're on your deathbed, like what do you imagine your dash to look like? Like, did you live your life and enjoy it? Did you do the things that you wanted to do? And for me, it's always like, what legacy am I leaving behind? Right. And that looks different for everybody, so having that opportunity. And I think that's why, I'm a firm believer funerals are for the living. And I think that's one of the things is like when you go to a funeral, right? Like you start to feel that way, right? You start to think about your own life, your own immortality, and what are you doing? And I think that's kind of a part of it, right? Is it's supposed to be that reminder that life is so precious and short, that what are we doing every day? So having access to these dashes that actually you can scan and see someone's life and really get to know who they were and how they lived. As you're
Hmm.
telling the story, it made me think of I went to a military cemetery with a friend of mine. There was someone that he knew who had passed away. And while we were in the area, he's like, "Oh, I want to go." I said, "Well, do you want someone to go with you? Or is this something you kind of want to do on your own?" So I ended up going with him, and I gave him some time. And as I was looking at a lot of the headstones, of course, I'm looking and I see like a Marine, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, like Marine, right?" And I got to one, and he had known him through somebody else or something, but couldn't quite remember the whole story. So I looked it up, and you can look up the name, and then you can kind of like pull up the obituary and stuff. But I thought, how many people don't even know that, or maybe don't even have one listed, even in a military cemetery? And we do so many things like Memorial Day and stuff, where planting flags and putting flowers, and you see the person's name. And maybe there's like an inscription, but then like that's all you get. I would be that person that would be like, "Oh my gosh, like, oh, there's a QR here. I can scan and actually find out who is this person I'm honoring today."
Yeah. Like, oh, hey, there's a dash.
Yes,
Scan it.
like this is
Scan
this
the
person's
dash.
life and their legacy. It's so I can see this expanding for like own personal interest. I think this is an amazing thing, and I hope more people take the time to find you, seek you out, and see what work that you can do for their memorials and their loved ones. And I also kind of want to say like in that mindset, like it's never too late. You don't have to have this just for a funeral or a service. There's still, if there's headstones there, like I said, people are taking care of that headstone or visiting it. And if it's something that can be added to what's already there, it helps bring that person to life again. Or at least,
Hmm.
like you said, their memory, and elongating them, and maybe even teaching lessons to people that are still here, and giving the people who are living a chance to live their lives.
Yeah, like my dad, he passed away in January 1998.
Mm.
I was 20 years old, and just last year we made a dash for his gravestone. He's at Riverside National Cemetery, U.S. Army, Vietnam era. Um, yeah, we put a dash on his gravestone. My daughters and I were there. did it, three of us kind of ceremony kind of a thing. And yeah, it was beautiful. It's very nice.
That's really
So yeah,
cool.
just to, make way, hey, someone could just scan him in my way, in my own heart. I know he's in heaven, and just so that he's remembered.
Well, I did a lot of funerals at that cemetery, so I'm very familiar with it, and I would definitely
Oh
make
yeah, Riverside National Cemetery.
sure. Yeah.
Wow.
So I was stationed in San Diego, and the way it worked when I was on active duty doing funeral honors is we had an A team and a B team. And basically, A team meant you probably had a funeral almost every day or every other day. B team meant you're on your off month. If A team was already tasked with the funeral, if there was a double tasking, you would pick up the other one. So we went all over the place. I don't know if
So
there was
you were on a funeral detail. Was that your main kind of job?
no, that was in addition to my job. I had a lot of B billets in the military, and I remember my gunny was so frustrated one time. He's like, "You're always gone," or I would come in and I'd be in my dress blues, and the difference, like Marine Corps and other branches. So for our dress blues, there isn't you can't take your coat off in your dress blues. There's no uniform underneath. But the
Right.
job that I had full time, we were all the way in the back of the building, and we didn't see people. We helped everyone who was deployed. So there was days where I would come in to work in my dress blues and just take my coat off and have my undershirt on and be like working and trying to get my job done before I had to go to the armory to go pick
Yeah.
up my M16 to then go to a funeral. So this
Wow. So you
sometimes
did
long days, but
so funeral duty, and what was your other like day job, I guess, in the military?
I was admin. So I
Oh,
did
that's right. Okay, admin.
okay.
Okay. So what's that like, secretary type work?
So yeah, basically my specific job at that time, I worked in the deployments office. So we met with everyone before they deployed, make sure they had their entitlements like life insurance, death benefits, all that kind of stuff, make sure everything was up to date. And then once they deployed, if anything needed to be done, obviously we ran all their entitlements to make sure they got paid. If they had a baby, made sure the baby got added into the system so that they would get insurance, all that kind of stuff. And then when they came back from deployment, we would do the same thing. We'd review everything and make sure it was good. Because one of the things that changed while I was in that job was there was a benefit, and at this point I'm so far removed I don't want to quote the benefit because I'll probably screw it up, but there is benefits other than just life insurance. But how it was coded was if you were married, whether you were legally separated or not pending a divorce, if you were married, then that entitlement went to your spouse no matter what. You could not opt it to go to anyone else. So we would have to explain to guys who are like, I'm literally like, no, my wife left me, or we're separated, we're pending a divorce, it's just not final yet. And they're deploying. I'm like, well, your option is make sure your life insurance is changed. But unfortunately, and then it got to where when that rule changed, then we were telling people, hey, it changed. So if you're changing your life insurance, no, you can change this now too. So it was a lot of like having to keep up with different rules and stuff and making sure that people felt like their families were taken care of as well as themselves if something would happen to them when they did deploy.
Wow, that's great. So that I mean that's like peace of mind for the warfighter.
Yeah. And
That's
sometimes
huge
it
peace of
was
mind.
like they'd be deployed, and there was times I'd be at work, by like 5 a.m. and then there's times I didn't leave work until like 7 p.m. And sometimes I'd get like an email or a phone call from the forward unit, and they'd be saying, hey, so and so got word that his divorce decree is finalized. Can you get this process like immediately? And I remember there was one guy who they got him in, did all his stuff, and they had a error on one of the pages, and they're like,
Oh,
he just went on convoy. I'm not going to see him again for 3 weeks. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious! Like we had to do like written statement. It was like this whole mess of a situation because we're like, please don't let him die on convoy. We have to fix a signature on one page.
oh my God.
um, so there's definitely some cases like that. We did have a case where there was a baby born. We did everything, and then later found out the baby was not his baby. That was a very unfortunate case too. So we had to deal with a lot of unfortunate situations like that. And obviously, we also dealt with when someone did pass away or when they were medevaced out, if there was a medical emergency and they had to be sent to Germany. That was the most common situation. So dealing with a lot of those type things as well, and making
That
sure
that
again that
that must have been hard for you, yeah.
I I don't know. I feel like God blessed me with some certain talents, and that's one that I've never had a hard time talking about death or death wishes. I know, like talking to other people, some people feel very uncomfortable, but I would always have to tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm not just talking about you deploying. I'm talking about you going home today. You could die in a car crash. Like, let's make sure your stuff's good to go. Or I think that's what
Hmm.
helped with me and my husband is that we were very vocal on what we both wanted, what our expectations were. Of course, we had the legalities, which a lot of people don't. People don't have wills or trust, the power of attorneys, medical power of attorneys, advance
Yeah.
directives. And advance directives, most hospitals will do those for you for free. So if anyone's listening, if you have certain feelings about being put on life support, whether you want to be sustained or not, don't leave it up to a poor hospital committee that has to make that decision for you or a family member who's distraught. Like, consider putting it in writing to help your loved ones or to help yourself out in the future, because that's a lot of people don't think about that. And those are things that you don't want a warfighter to have to think about that while they're deployed. You want to make sure like all that is taken care of so they at least feel like that burden or that deep thought is at least put at ease, as knowing like, okay, this is taken care of, or my family's taken care of, or this is where we're at, right? Like that was a big part of that job. Is I was like, it's not about me. It's making sure that that person is taken care of, which is also kind of why I've always been a very servant heart. My parents are both Air Force, so Air Force service before self. That's kind of how I was raised. And even with the burial detail, it was actually really, really rare to get someone on it. So at the time I was in it, anyone who was currently serving, it was supposed to be, I believe it was a 2-year commitment, or maybe it was supposed to be a 1 year, but it turned into 2 years. It turned into you are permanently on this unless you can find a replacement, because they didn't have enough people volunteering or stepping up. And whether people didn't know about it or their units wouldn't let them, whatever the case may be, I just know it was a very, nobody wanted to do it. And I was like actively seeking it out and wanting to join the team. So when another member of my unit found out, she was like, heck yes. She said, I'm going to swap you. And I was like, okay, whatever, like, doesn't matter. I'm just, I'm wanting to serve and wanting to be on the team. But that's what got her off. And I think she did 2.5, almost 3 years. Which is it's a big commitment. I'll say of all the funerals I've ever done, there's only been 2 that really got me emotionally. And it
What
was,
were those?
so I had one funeral while I was still on active duty, and it was a woman and her husband. They were there for her brother who passed away. And it literally, this woman looked like my mom. Like, I swear, same haircut, coat, shoes, everything. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And the gentleman, her husband, like, very similar attributes to my dad. So I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I was like,
The freaky.
brain playing tricks. Well, my uncle is also a Marine. So it literally just kind of played out where I was like, this could be like my mom and dad and her brother, like, holy smokes. And
Wow.
at the end of the service, she had come up to us and said, hey, do you mind if I take your picture? And we're like, yeah, like, sure, that's fine. Because typically on active duty, we would get there super early. We would make sure where are we at? Are we familiar with that particular spot? Do our run through, right? Do our little warm up practice. Okay, cool. And then we would stage and wait for the family. We
Yeah.
do our thing. We leave. We'd let the family have their moment. Well, it was just the 2 of them, right? So typically we weren't like there after the service was over. So she has to take our picture, and we're like, yeah, sure, okay. And I was just like, damn, this woman, she really freaking looks like my mom. Like, this is wild. So she's even closer at this point. And I was just like,
Mm.
my goodness. And then she said, my brother never felt like he deserved this, but he knew you guys could use the practice. And I was like, all right, I'm checking out. I lost it. And I was typically the A driver and like the comedian of the group and stuff. And I think like my whole team knew, because it felt like everyone just kind of like looked at me like, oh, hammock just broke. And they let me sit in the back of the bus on the way home. And I was just, it just, like I said, it got me. It literally looked like my family. But the second
Yeah.
one,
That was holy cow. Like, oh my gosh. Like they say, somewhere in the world, there's somebody that looks like us.
yeah.
like almost
Or
close to a twin.
doppelganger.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I can't imagine
Yeah.
what
Um,
what an experience that must have been.
and it's
And
one like
so they said
I
that
still remember.
he um really wouldn't want all of that, but he just for the practice or
He didn't feel like he deserved it,
the
but would let
Marine
us
that
still come out
died,
so we could have the practice.
the
Yeah, the
Marine
Marine
that
who
died,
passed. Hmm.
and he died in combat.
No, that gentleman had died in a veteran status. So
Oh,
it's
okay, so he's a
yeah,
veteran
because
guy.
we did both. So
Active duty
yeah,
and combat and
there was a couple active duty ones that
all
I
of
was
them.
involved with, but
Was
majority of the
he?
ones I did while on active duty, those who passed were in a veteran status.
Oh wow. And so, but he was a younger guy,
Um, I don't
like under
remember
40.
age. I'd say like maybe around 50s, roughly, because I'm trying to
Oh,
think.
okay.
Um, because she looked like she's around the same age as my mom. So trying to think of like timeline when I was there and how old my parents were around that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
crazy.
gosh.
Yeah.
So that impact that left a obvious memory.
Oh yeah. Like I said,
Those
there's
are my parents. That could be
very
my
few.
family.
Yeah, there's very few that I remember, but that one like is burned into my memory.
Yeah.
And there's some other ones where some funny stuff happened. I feel kind of inappropriate talking about some of it.
Okay.
But there we had a guy. Um,
Memorable.
yeah, we swear there was something wrong with his leg, and he had like some type of gimp leg. We're like, we don't understand. Like he didn't quite walk right, but he always said he was fine, and we're like, yeah, it looks like you know. Anyway, we had we had some interesting situations. Like I'm small in stature, so for those who haven't met me, I'm 5'2", about 115 pounds. I'm a tiny human being. Um, and one of the funerals that we went to, we had to carry, so we carried the caskets. I did it too. And I was the only female on the team at the time, and definitely the smallest. There was no guy here my height. um, but we had to go down this hill. Well, everyone felt more comfortable with me carrying the person than the guy who we swore had a gimpy leg, because they're like, no, this guy, like, he's gonna fall down the hill. Like,
So a guy on your team had a
we
bad
don't know.
leg.
He walked funky. He
He had a
swore there was
limp
nothing
or
wrong, but we're like,
something.
we see you walk. Like, we think there's something wrong with you. So
Okay. And you guys were carrying the caskets?
yeah, so we convinced this guy to stand post and watch the rifles while we carried the casket. So I carried it, even though originally he's like, well, why aren't we having her carry it? They're like, no, it's fine. Like, you got the gimpy leg. And he was like, what? And we're like, we don't understand how he doesn't, like, he literally looks like he's like tripping every time he takes a step. So we're like, you just stay at the bottom with the rifles. We'll carry the casket down the hill, no big deal. But we got to the setup, and you know how they have like the like the metal posts, because then you set the casket on, and then
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
framing, the metal framing. Anyway,
Yeah, the lowering device.
well, remember, I'm a
Mhm.
tiny human being, so we get to this point, and it's
And
not
you're already
it's not
lower. You're like,
yes.
I can't go any
I'm like
lower.
here, because most of the other guys they're like close to 6 foot.
And
Because
they're
so the
carrying
formal
the coffin
team,
like at an angle.
the formal team out of DC, like if you were on like the formal that does most all active duty deaths, like you have to have certain height and weight requirements.
Yeah, they're big dudes. I saw a little documentary, mini documentary. They're like
Yeah.
all buff, 6'1"
Yes.
exactly. And I'm like, whoa.
And we did not have those requirements. So we're coming down the hill, and it's not, we're going down a hill, right? It's not flat, and not all cemeteries are this beautiful flat landscape that people think they are. So as we go, I'm coming up, and I'm like, I'm now stretched out fully, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to let go and then wait for them to push it back towards me. I was like, because I couldn't reach any further, and they had like, I don't know if it was like a hump or something, or a hole that they were avoiding, or because not they're not perfectly little rectangle holes. And I at another time I got my foot caught in the mechanism because I had to lean so far over to like be able to set it down. that my foot had got trapped in the actual mechanism. So when it was time to step back, I had to like try and pull my foot out. And this was like it was a really big funeral. There was like over 100 people there. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So everyone is ready to turn. And I'm like, my foot is still stuck. Like, what am I
Yeah.
supposed to do? And
Wait.
yeah, I luckily they were like forward and I just kind of pulled. So my side of the line, my staff sergeant said he saw it and was like, what just happened? He said that the one line went forward and my side of the line kind of did this like wave together in step, but he was like, it was weird because everyone did it as if like they all did it on time. So yeah, well, we
We
put that.
meant to do that. It's
Yeah,
just a thing we do. It's a new thing. We're just
yeah.
trying it out.
So there's
It's a new
definitely
marine thing. It's
some
called the
wild moments
Marine
like that.
Sway. The Marine Wave.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a new
but
thing we're working on, sir.
yeah, like oh, we're
Meant to do that.
like a yeah, like the wave. We're doing the funeral wave. Like we're adding a step here.
Yeah, it's
Um,
new.
but I think that's something like emotionally for me, it was good to be able to give those moments to other people, like to give them to families. And um, there's only one other one that I almost cried like in the moment. I definitely was not ready for. I did this one in a veteran status with an organization, and typically what happens is, again, we get there early. We kind of, make sure we know the landscape, all this kind of stuff.
Kind of
And
march through things together, like
yeah, so that
time
way,
it,
if it's
pace it
a
out. You
different
can have it
territory,
in your
like
mind.
a lot of the times we went to um, the one in Riverside, and sometimes we were like, oh, we were just here like yesterday, or oh, we've been to this one 3 times this month already. But if we had somebody who maybe wasn't on the team that day, we would just do like a quick little walkthrough and be like, we're going to exit this way, enter this way, because this is where they're going to set up the flowers and all this kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, you don't want to be doing that stuff cold without any walkthrough.
yeah, like
When
tripping
there's people
over someone's
around and
like
you're carrying
flowers,
this
or
heavy
like their picture.
casket, you got to look like crisp and sharp. That's not the time to do it for the first time.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like the family's already been through enough. You don't want to torture them with screwing
Yeah, the
something that
United States
up.
Marine Corps, you guys got to be the, example of perfection at
Yes.
a funeral, especially. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
The one I did in the veteran status, I did a ton for that one too. I was pretty often the only Marine. We had like a couple over the years, but for the most part, I was the only Marine. And if if active duty couldn't send somebody, like we were grateful, and there's some other great nonprofits that do this work too. But anyway, we got called in, and we're there. We kind of did our little run through. Well, it's a Marine who passed away, so how it typically works, like in a perfect world, right? If you have the resources, you get 2 minutes to fold the flag, you get the full detail for the 21 gun salute, right? But if there's not enough resources, sometimes like you only get the 2 people to fold the flag. It's very unfortunate, very heartbreaking, which is ultimately why this nonprofit was really trying to step it up. So we had members from each branch of service. Well, when I did on active duty for the Marine Corps, right, we're doing it for Marines, and whoever presented the flag had to be equal to or greater than rank of the person who passed away. It was just Marine Corps
Wow.
we're very specific on tradition and honor and respect. We do a lot of things certain ways for those reasons, and so for the nonprofit, it was basically
It's like you're not even good enough to carry the staff sergeant, You're just a
yeah.
PFC. You're not
Um,
even a staff sergeant.
we did. There
I
was a
mean,
few times we'd have to call someone in just to be the one to present the flag. So like we would still carry the casket, we'd still fold the flag, but the person who actually presents it to the next of kin. The Marine Corps also has almost like a paragraph speech that you give. While I think the other branches of service, it's like a couple sentences. But for the nonprofit side, we would just try and make sure at least it was the same branch of service, right? So this was my first time ever, and actually, come to think of it, I think it might have been the only time. If there was another time, it didn't stick with me, sorry. But this one was my first time ever presenting a flag, and we go early, we set up, but then how it's always been, even on active duty, is that the lead coordinator, so on active duty was my staff sergeant, and then whoever was presenting the flag would physically put hands on the next of kin. And I say that like, shake their hand or at least introduce themselves. And that way, you don't want to give the flag to the wrong person. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that
Yeah,
happen
this is
before.
the ex-girlfriend, you know. Oh, the wife's over here.
Or they're like, oh, it's the blonde lady wearing the black dress. And
Yeah,
there's
that other
three
one.
blonde ladies in black dresses sitting next to each
Yeah.
other. Uh,
There's like six of them.
yeah. So that was a big piece of it was making sure you have the right person.
Got the right target.
But in that moment, you're there
We
to
got the package.
yeah.
Target acquired.
You're there to embrace the
You almost
family.
like I'd probably put like a little ribbon on them, maybe like a little flag. Like here's your
Yeah,
flag.
like
Here you go.
here, this is the person.
Like that would make sense, you know, like here, ma'am, can you please put this on? It's in
Yeah,
honor. That would
yeah,
almost make sense. Like it's a you know, the real reason is so that yeah, you're
yes,
not going to
get
tell them, but you're like,
identified.
yeah, so we don't forget you because you guys are doing your thing, right? And you're so stressed about, okay, we got to make sure we look like this and go, huh, huh, huh. And then in the last moment around all these people, you know, your people too, even though you're Marines, it's like, which one was it?
Yeah,
And I can see the little American flag ribbon being like really cool, unless multiple people have it. But like, no, only like super unique
yeah,
identifier that only you guys pin on them. That would be like, oh, brilliant. But I'm assuming you guys probably do something like that.
yeah. That's an interesting thought because it is true. Like when you do so many, and sometimes we had two or three in one day, and like going back to back. And
They're
then also,
like,
like you think of it like the for some people like the burnout and coping, they just put the mask on and they just don't. They purposely don't retain. Um, I
yeah,
didn't.
you don't want to be holding on to these memories. Dude, I
Yeah.
want to do this thing, getting in and out of here. And,
Mhm.
you know, you flush that out of your brain so that you can live your life.
Because you're dealing with people on one of the worst days of their lives. Um, they
So,
they've lost their person, no matter what the relationship is. They lost their person, and grief hits everybody very differently. And typically, like people aren't thinking clearly, they're crying. The difficulty communicating, like it's human, it's emotions, it's what happens. So you're also holding that space for that person in that moment. And yeah, you don't want to screw it up. So that was kind of where we were at. Just we're gonna, meet the daughter. She was the next of kin, and my husband and I were the ones folding the flags, Marine and Sailor, Department of Navy. And we go forward to meet her, and our coordinator had been talking to her, and she turns as I'm sticking out my hand to say, "Hi, I'm Jessica Rose." And she walks past me as my hand's like coming out, my mouth is opening, right? No offense at all to her again, right? It was just the timing of it. She walked right past me to the casket and had laid on the casket and was crying out, like, "Oh, daddy, my daddy." And I was like, "Oh, shit." Like, I was not in the zone in that moment. In that moment, I was the friendly, empathetic, embracing person that I naturally am. So I looked at my husband and was like, "Oh my God, what do we do?" Like, clearly, like, this is the daughter. We have definitely confirmed this is the daughter. And we just both kind of came to attention. So at that point, we're on either end of the casket. And who am I staring at? Oh, my husband. And then I'm like, I can't look at your eyes because I could see he was even not ready for it. So then I'm like staring into his throat and I'm like, just look over my head. Like, you don't look at my eyes. I won't look at your eyes. We're just going to like, you got to zen out in
yeah,
that moment and like,
just right
hey,
here, tunnel
we're
vision,
professionals
blurred
now.
out.
Like, we're done. There's no more like, you know, uh, I hate that you lost your loved one. There's no handshake. We're professionals. And then we just stood there until it's time to fold the flag. And then I presented it to her. So I remember just staring at his neck and just repeating my paragraph and just repeating it over and over and over again in my head because I was like, I'm not going to screw this up. I'm going to just zone out. I'm a professional and that's what I'm here for. And that's not a trait everybody has. I think that that's one that I'm very fortunate that God blessed me with because in every job I've had since I've been in the Marine Corps, I've had to deal with death in some form or fashion. So I think it's just something that God has blessed me with the ability to process and talk about and hold. I love talking about all taboo topics, but um, that that's something I've since I was 18 years old, doing funeral honors and being exposed to things like that. It's
Yeah. Like a funeral, a military funeral director.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
because even in the civilian world, working at the mortuary, serving this mortuary pilot and a handful of those mortuaries, like they every day, that's their business. That's what they do. And hats off to them,
yeah,
because that's their world. That's their lane every day.
yeah,
And just interesting. I think it's kind of not everyone's cut out for that, military, civilian, but it definitely takes, special someone, special calling.
yeah.
So
And it goes back to kind of what we were saying, like, do we have the capacity to do all these things? Sure, but then what is our capacity to make our greatest impact with the skill set that we have? Right? And how you were saying, I could do all these things to help people in this moment, or I could focus in on the software side and I could focus in on changing that dash to the QR to where the part between the numbers actually means something for people to be able to scan and have that memory. And I think of that with what I did with funeral honors. Like, I was there as a service to give the family something that gave back to them in whatever way that looked like for them.
yeah,
I
like
mean,
everyone plays a role at the funeral that day.
yeah,
Everyone, someone got the flowers, somebody's got the flag, someone's carrying in. We got the Marines marching in, and we got the limo driver, we got the hearse driver, we've got these other people. Everyone's got a little important part of it. And
yeah,
yep, yeah, it's definitely important. And
hmm
something that comes to mind is, for those that may be listening and maybe not have gone to a funeral, um, and maybe for whatever reason they don't want to think about funerals. But if they're listening and they have an ear to hear, it's a reminder is you only get one funeral. You only get one shot at it. You don't go like, oh, we'll get it next time, we'll get it right next time. You have one shot to get this funeral right. And hopefully down the road people will say, hey, you know what? Because of that reason, we want to make sure we get everything right. The flowers, the programs, the this, the that, and now, oh, we got to get that dash. We got to get that, the QR code, the thing, the dash. Hopefully that'll be another, just one more little layer, one little tweak that means so much more that's last after the funeral. That's the most important thing. Like it's so little and tiny now, but it's really, if you think about it, it's the whole memories, like for a long, long time.
yeah.
And you know, yeah,
And
it starts off as a little simple slideshow, but we really have some really awesome plans as we finally launch and grow to do some really great things with AI. And then the new AI that's coming out, that a lot of people don't even know about. Um, and it's just exciting. So, we really want to do great things, but for the whole simple mission to remember someone in a beautiful way with whatever technology that's out there. And it's exciting. Hopefully people will give it a thought. Hey, they're going to have a goodbye someday for a loved one, and make sure they get the funeral right. And yes, this life is finite. We are mortal, and we're gonna, we're gonna die one day. How do we want to be remembered? Hopefully, some people kind of can give that a little thought, to not be sad but be happy, you
yeah,
know.
for sure. Now, I know we'll include your links in the description below, but if you want to verbally tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Yeah, just give me a call, shoot me a text. Yeah, why not? Got a we got a landing page. We got two landing pages. Well, one landing page and then the actual web app that we're making. So if people want to kind of test out what we're building, it's dashmemories.com. And if people just kind of want to see the landing page, which will have a link to that as well, it's -qrcodes.com. And on there, they can contact, or also get in touch with LinkedIn, David Gastelum on LinkedIn. Yep. Dash firefighter.
I love it. Well, I want to give you an opportunity if there's anything else. I know we talked a lot about the dash itself, and then a little bit about funerals, the importance of funerals, and shared a couple chuckles here and there. But I want to give you the opportunity if you have any final thoughts or anything else that you'd like to say to our listeners before we close out today.
Yeah, I think it's important to just reemphasize the whole point, make it simple. Dash, the startup, our company, is here to provide a beautiful way for people to be remembered. And well, how do you do that? Simply put, right now we're making it so it's you can easily add video memories onto physical objects. And you know, just to keep it simple so people can understand that simply. And then again, why is it called Dash? We don't deliver food. It's called Dash because we got the name, literally got the name when I was at my buddy who died in line of duty, 2017, Kelly Wong. He died during a training accident in downtown Los Angeles, June 3rd, 2017. I was off that day, and Kelly was doing some training in the morning in downtown. They were doing some, you know, just like the military does. They go through their practice, their drills, so that when a real fire hits, they're not stressed out thinking about basics. They're kind of, there's certain things you don't want to stress out about. So they're just doing some training, and the training was they had a ladder, those big aerial ladders on the big fire truck, the hook and ladders stretched up, extended up to a 7-story building. And when everybody was fully geared up, had all of the gear on. They were going through mock scenarios, kind of like a dress rehearsal, like pretend simulations, everything without the flames. And so he had to ascend a ladder carrying gear, equipment to the roof up this 100-foot aerial ladder. And it was part of the way up, about 6 floors up. When he reached about the sixth floor, about 65 feet up, is when witnesses saw that he somehow fell off the ladder and landed on top of the fire truck, crashed on top of the fire truck, and um, he was 29 years old. He left behind a young wife and a 10-month-old baby, and he died in June, which is the month of Father's Day. And it was 2 weeks before his first Father's Day, and it was 2 months before his son's first birthday. And so at Kelly's funeral is when I looked at a gravestone off to the side. I saw the dates of birth and death on the gravestone. I looked at the little dash in between the dates, and I thought, gosh, after this whole life, everything you do, you just get this little tiny dash, and that's it. And it hit me, and that moment is when I realized, back earlier when I mentioned as a first responder, we'd go on a lot of people that would pass away at home. When we'd walk into their houses and we'd see all the pictures, the photos, and realize that those get stored away in a box to forever to be forgotten, along with their existence to be forgotten. That's when that moment hit me. Like, gosh, that dash, that's, all those memories, everything you're about is in just that little tiny dash. And I thought, that's a crime. And I thought, how could we fix that? My first responder brain kicked in. We're problem solvers. That's all we really are, with fire jackets and fire engines, but we're problem solvers. And that was in 2017. And like I mentioned before, I'd been aware of this barcode that was a super barcode that was new, it was unique. I knew it did more than just scan it, it gives you a price tag. I just knew it did more than that. And I thought, how maybe we can put that new super barcode, I called it. Didn't even know what it was called. Did some research, found out it was called the QR code. But I thought in my mind in that moment, maybe we could put a a super barcode in place of that little dash so that we can see all of those photos, all those memories that get forgotten about in a box, and they can live there. So that's how that idea kind of started. And fast forward a couple years later, finally did something about it. I had to do a safety project program. That's why I didn't jump on Dash right away in 2017. I was focused on a safety project to help prevent other firefighters from dying the way he did. He died because of a breakdown in communication and teamwork, which, long story short, you know, we did a safety project to help address teamwork and communication issues in the fire service in LA Fire Department. And after that kind of effort, around 2020, um, I had the bandwidth to now focus on that idea I had at the funeral to remember people with the super barcode, which obviously I learned was the quick response code, which was developed really, for memorials. The first time that showed up ever was Japan, 2011. So it wasn't like the brand new idea, but I did have the idea to put it between the dates that I know of. I was the one that came up, hey, you got to put it in place of the dash. Nowhere else that I could recall doing my research ever did I find anyone putting the QR code in between the dates. So that's my clever brain, baby. No, I'm just kidding. Um, so I thought, gosh, what do we call this QR code to remember somebody? What could we call this QR code that's legacies and memorials that we put in place of the dash? And I'm like, man, what do we call this? I'm thinking all these different names, and I'm like, oh, that's no names are already taken because other people were already doing this, but it just back then, just people didn't have the QR code reader, right? They weren't really ready. COVID hadn't happened. People didn't know what really QR codes were. QR codes for memorials, kind of the funeral industry did tackle this 10 years before, but it didn't take because it wasn't the right time. Um, you know, like you mentioned before, back in the day, when these QR codes for memorials in the funeral industry did initially come out, after I did my own research, it just wasn't the time because, people had to have a lot of friction. You had to, download an app and do all these other things, and people didn't know what a QR code reader was. They'd see a QR code and, didn't know. So it's all about timing. And, but at any rate, so going back to the name, I thought, gosh, what do we call this QR code for memories and legacies that goes in between the dates? And I'm like, maybe I'll just call it Dash. And so I got linked up with my attorney. He's an intellectual property attorney, and we applied for the trademark. And trademark called a dash for downloadable software, all the different classifications for software we obtained. And my attorney was blown away. This was several years ago, 2021. And so he is like, wow, dash DASH, four-letter word. It's a very common word. He was just blown away that we were able to get that trademark for a QR code. So, you know, if anyone wants to try to call the QR code for their memorial a dash, just give me a call. We'll talk. You know, let's do this legally. Uh, and other than that, hey, we do want to definitely protect people's memories and um, anyone want to be a part of it, call, support, see how we can work together. Because we got a big mission. Ultimately, the big mission sounds corny, but yeah, I want to make sure people are remembered, that they're not forgotten. Um, And we have meaning, we have value, we're here for a purpose and a reason. And I think just in my own little mind, it's like I think it's sad that people are forgotten. And I want to leave this world knowing that, I did something about it. And if people want to join on and help be a part of that, that would be great and wonderful. Always looking for help, support in any way, shape, or form, and be here for people that want to remember their loved one.
Well, I love that. And as simple as Dash sounds, it's such a powerful, long-lasting thing. So I'm so grateful for all the work that you've put in, especially sticking with it after Kelly's passing and saying, you know what, we're going to fix this, but then we're going to go on and we're going to be able to fix the memory and legacy of so many people going forward. And just, yeah, being able to connect on LinkedIn and stay connected over the years. I'm so grateful for all the work you're doing and your help being able to help me with my own husband's dash. So thank you.
Yeah, that's the most honorable thing, just we're here for you guys, we're here for you and your husband, your family. We'll make that beautiful dash for him for everything you want to do so that his memory persists, so he's not forgotten.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, we're here for you. We're here for everybody, all the listeners.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you found this episode inspiring, please share it with someone you never know who needs more light in their life. May this serve as a reminder that there's always darkness in the world. Do not let it consume you. Always seek the light. Please take a moment to do the good old subscribe, rate, and review. Your support means so much to me, and it helps me spread more light and love. Until next time, be kind, be loving, be human, and don't ever let anyone steal your hope.